Question: how many times have people told you to be yourself? And seriously, how annoying has that advice gotten? Want to start writing? Just be yourself. Want to start a personal brand? Want to start posting anything online? Just be yourself. Want to approach a girl and land a hot date? Just be yourself, bro. It's good advice, but not to the masses, because they don't truly understand what it means to be yourself. Why? Because they are somebody else, and they are viewing the world through that lens, not the lens that they created. They went to school and unconsciously adopted bad habits, personality traits, and an outlook on the world that made them realize what's possible for them in their life, which is usually not very much. They went to college with a fresh start, but went through another round of conditioning, just layering over what was already there. They got a job and accepted the company's goals as their own and created an identity around the job title that they were given, and that unconscious misalignment leads to dread, despair, and the death of a soul that leaves a robotic, animalistic corpse of a human being that lives in a perpetual state of survival, a slave to the external world. When the external aligns with the internal, that is when your goals, the ones that you create, align with who you really are deep down, that's when the unconscious sends resources to help fuel that lifestyle that you are trying to build. That is when the unconscious, which can manage 11 billion bits of information compared to the conscious mind, which can only handle 40 to 50, like me moving my hand, this is unconscious. Everything that I'm doing, my breathing, my sight, everything, mostly everything, is unconscious. The things that we forget or glance over as human beings, that if we came to know these things and explore these things, we would unlock or peek into an entirely new way of viewing the world. So think about that. If you can put 40 to 50 bits of information, like using conscious effort towards something, imagine the potential of 11 million more being available to you if you can align the goal that you create with what you truly enjoy, or what aligns with you the most, or what speaks to you the most, if you want to frame it that way. There are many different ways of framing this, but I find the best way to frame it is just to have an open mind towards the spiritual way of saying these things, and not writing it off as like hippie or new age or any of that stuff. Right? The only way you're going to be able to connect that to a way that you truly understand is by having an open mind to everything, not only that I'm saying, but what everyone's saying. Now, in previous videos, and quite a bit of the videos, we talked about how manual labor and time not being scalable and certain robotic specialized tasks being automated out all over the place. It's just happening. That's what humans do. We build solutions to repetitive tasks that make sense, to build systems that do it for us. And so the future belongs to everyone, of course, but the future, a good future, a lucrative future, a good external world for us, belongs to the people that can harness the creative power of their mind. But that's just the thing, is that if you try to leverage your mind, and especially a mind that was created by the external world, a mind and thoughts and beliefs and a matrix. Next video, we're talking about the matrix. But if you're trying to leverage a mind that was created by the external world, then you are going to be thinking and creating the same things as everyone else. You have to dig deep. You have to go inward in order to tap into that infinite intelligence that is. Because we want originality, personality, and wisdom. Now, originality doesn't come from accepting what everyone has told you, taking the advice of others, and not having a shred of self-reliance. We want to have the visionary ideas, which come from intrinsic goals, that pursuing the things that you really want, creating a vision out of that, and leading other people towards it. This is why I'm so big on, again, the one-person business model, the creator business model, because it's self-reliance based. It forces you to be original if you want to thrive in the market. It sets you up for the future by building digital leverage and spreading your ideas across the nation, which nobody could do prior to the internet, which is insane. Only the most profound, possibly. There were probably more profound people than we know right now, like Socrates, Plato, all these other people, their works lived on, and now they're viewed as mythological because in their time, it would have been like me talking to you. Whatever lingo or vernacular that I'm using to speak like this, like it would just be weird if I was speaking like an ancient Stoic, right? It wouldn't work. But in that time period, it was normal for them to speak like that. And now we deem it also profound and mythological. And don't get me wrong, they're extremely profound. And there are insanely good lessons in there. That's why we love them so much. But to think that you aren't capable of doing the same just by speaking your truth or trying to actually create something of value to put out to the world and impact people's lives, then don't know what to tell you. In a world where there are no eyes, the sun would not be light. And in a world where there were no soft skins, rocks would not be hard. Nor in a world where there were no muscles would they be heavy. Existence is relationship, and you are smack in the middle of it. Alan Watts. In a world where there are no others, the self would not exist. Your identity, or the self, can only exist when you make a distinction between you and everything around you. That's what the ego does. That's what the mind does, is it creates boundaries. It creates partitions in a hard drive. It creates distinctions from everything. So here's a graphic, right? Who you really are. Who you really are is this little thing in the middle. And then the first ring on the outside is who you think you are. So that is a web of thoughts and beliefs of your own about yourself. And then the next layer over who you actually are is who your friends think you are. And you probably give that too much conscious thought. It's comparison, right? It's that distinction that is what creates the boundary between someone else and us. It's not connection, it's comparison, when it should be the opposite. It should be sameness over difference, but understanding the differences between things is also a good thing. But that's, as the Alan Watts quote goes, we shouldn't leave out the similarities of things. We need to hold both in our mind in order to understand them as a whole. And so the ring outside of that one is who society wants you to be, and then even further outside of that is who culture says you are. So this is what a lot of spiritual teachers and mystics are trying to say, and especially Buddhism with suffering, right? Suffering is the main word. Suffering is what we are trying to not necessarily eliminate, but view in a different light. So suffering happens when you view the world from a lens of comparison. You highlight the differences between things and why they are so different, why they're not the same. What differentiates you, a, let's say, Christian, from them, a, let's say, Catholic, and is there something there? Is there tension there that causes dislike or suffering in you because they aren't willing to transition over to you? And we could talk about this from a billion different examples. Religion is just one of them. So that's when suffering happens. But enjoyment, that's kind of my word for love, because I feel like people get confused with the word love because it's been twisted and manipulated so much in our language. So I prefer the word enjoyment and the feelings that come from doing the things that you are connected with, right? That's the thing here. Not comparison. Connection is what leads to enjoyment. When you understand it, when you have clarity on what you're doing, when you're playing a game and you understand every single aspect of it, right? Your skill matches the challenge that this game presents, and it's just so enjoyable that you become obsessed with it. So enjoyment and obsession is kind of my word for what the spiritual teachers or the mystics would call love. So enjoyment is what happens when you view the world from a lens of connection, when you zoom out, when you gain meta perspective and you seek to understand the big picture with an open mind rather than a closed mind because you're comparison. So I want to bring up a concept that we talked about in a previous video, and it's called the focus matrix. So at the top there's contraction, and I want you to think of this as narrow focus or deep focus. At the bottom there's expansion, which would be wide focus or open focus. And then on the right there's conscious focus, which is you're aware, you're conscious of what you're focusing on. And then there's unconscious, where your attention is kind of being manhandled, like you're not really in control of it, and you can see the emotions and other things that are associated with those. So when you are so zoomed in on something, which isn't a bad thing. It's very useful in many cases for, say, productivity. But when you're, say, lasered in or narrowed in or contracted on a specific thought or emotion that you don't like, or a belief, then your mind is closed off, right? Because if you're so focused on that, something else isn't going to register in your awareness. The big picture, the other piece of the puzzle that would lead you to not being angry, you can't become aware of that because you're so lasered in on something. But when you zoom out and you try, you seek with an open mind, you open your mind, you expansion, you expand your focus and your consciousness to seek to understand rather than judge, seek to observe and discern rather than judge and react and label. And so most people are in this perpetual state of narrow contracted focus, and you can see this everywhere. It's like in a comment section when someone notices like a typo in a tweet of mine, and that's all they focus on. They miss the complete message, lesson, or essence of the post itself, and they're like, didn't you mean there? Because I spelled there wrong or something like that. And it's like, you focus, right? That's what I mean by focus, is expand your focus or try to understand the essence of what's being said in any given situation, or pull the lesson out of any given situation, rather than just lasering in on the one thing you don't like and making that your reality because it composes the contents of your consciousness, so it's your reality. Then why do you want to live like that? You don't. And it's unconscious. Refer back to the focus matrix, where all on the left side, I guarantee that those are emotions that you do not want to have. And it is as simple as learning to focus. But that goes 10 times deeper than you think it actually does. So what does all of this have to do with being yourself? Here's a tweet I wrote the other day. People love to say, be yourself, but tend to forget that it took your entire life to get to this point of not being yourself. It's going to take thousands of hours to reprogram your mind to act from a place of consistent authenticity. Keyword there is consistent. You can be authentic right now, but if you haven't reached that stage, this is the difference between states and stages. Is states are temporary. You can be creative for like 5 minutes. You can be authentic for 5 minutes, but then when everything goes unconscious, you're back to the stage that you were at, the level. And so if you slowly develop yourself over time to have a higher baseline or stage permanence of authenticity, creativity, productivity, whatever it may be, calmness, then you can start to branch into higher states and slowly move your baseline up. And so when you move your baseline authenticity up by deconstructing and reprogramming your brain down, then that's when things start to get really authentic and consistent. So by the time you're 18, and once you've gone through the phase of learning from your parents, and then the school system, and then your job, and you're left with this brain that was created by other people and the things that you consciously picked up along the way, and if you weren't made aware that you are going down a wrong mental path, and then you can go back and correct that, which is what this video is. It's for awareness. It's not like I'm going to magically fix it all of a sudden. It's something you have to become aware of and develop over years upon years, because it took you years to get to this place of not being yourself. And that's just the thing. We're creatures of habit. That's what our mind does. Through conditioning, you can think of this as repetition, right? Like when you go to the gym and you perform repetitions, that is conditioning. So when something is consistently exposed to your conscious mind, let's say like a religious teaching, right? Then you start to believe that. It becomes law, and neural networks are carved out in your brain like the Grand Canyon with flowing water. And over time, you have this just massive thing that is going to be difficult to either bury over or re-dig. You're not going to do that to the Grand Canyon, but you can do it to your brain through repetition or conditioning in the opposite direction towards the character or person that you want to create and be authentic with. And this problem is perpetuated by social media. Because think about it, if our brain is conditioned through information that we receive, or stimuli that we receive, and throughout our lives, like let's say we didn't have phones and we were only exposed to our parents, our friends, our teachers, people we cross on the street, maybe the news, media, something like that. But now social media, where we're checking our phone check your screen time, right? Check your own screen time for hours upon hours throughout the day, exposing ourselves to all of these different ideas. And depending on how many you truly pay attention to and digest and resonate with, and most people not even questioning any of these and just accepting them as law, then you're even further not yourself. We're in an age where it is 10 times easier to be conditioned into this just negative human being as a whole, right? This toxic human being as a whole. And you can see this everywhere. It's a huge problem, but maybe that's just because I'm on social media, right? Maybe that's just because it's been conditioned into my brain that the world is fucked. So I have some work to do myself. But the thing with this is that you can lock yourself into a socialization chamber on social media. And socialization makes you stupid. It's kind of obvious, right? You don't want to avoid socialization, but you want to strike a balance. And social media in any capacity is not a balance, right? You need time for being alone. That's how you be yourself. You can't be yourself if you're consistently exposed and overexposed to other people's opinions, especially in the mass amounts that social media creates. Because I find it funny that you and I, whether you're an introvert or extrovert, would probably cringe at being locked in a room with all of your friends for like 3 days, right? You want to see them maybe 2-3 times, maybe even just once a week, right? To hang out with your friends for maybe an hour to 3 hours at a time. But then you don't cringe at the fact that you log onto social media where there's 100 times more people posting much more polarizing information, and just like you act like that's different, right? Your mind doesn't know any different. It's the same information. Maybe it's different in medium, but not even then. Maybe you're just in person and you can see the bottle. In that case, it's just worse. Social media is worse all like around. And now I always get the question when I talk bad about social media, it's like, isn't your job to be on social media? I'm talking about the bad aspects of social media, right? I know I'm a influencer or I'm a creator, but I'm on social media less than 30 minutes a day. All of my content is created outside of social media. I log on to engage with people and get what I need, and that's it. I'm very careful with curating who I follow, and that it's not for mindless consumption, it's for inspiration and research. And I think a lot of people could benefit from having that mindset, because the only other option is to distract yourself, right? So log on social media, get what you need, talk to the people you have to, network, take advantage of the benefits of social media and the mass reach of it, and then leave the rest out. You're not obligated to do any of that. And it's another thing. So I'll just address this right now. If I don't respond to DMs or sometimes comments or other things, one, it's because I have a community and that's where I spend the most of my time, so I can help the people that want to be helped the most. But aside from that, it's like I wouldn't be able to create this content if I was on social media more than I am now. I wouldn't be able to deliver this kind of content. And even if it's not the most genius level content, it's like I like what I create and I like to try and be original. And I wouldn't be able to do that if I was just copying everyone else unconsciously, because they're just feeding my brain with everything they want me to say. And so don't just blindly follow like what I'm saying here. As with any of my videos, I try to add this in all of my videos, is like, you have to test and experiment for yourself. You have to deem what I say true. And if it's not true to you, then it's not true to you. So as you're going about this week, try to catch yourself being someone else. Notice the words that you pick up. And you're like, oh, that's a new word that I said, or I haven't said that much before. Like, where did I pick it up? Question it and follow it to its source. And then see, do I really want to adopt this as a part of my vocabulary or how I articulate things? And then also notice the decisions that you make and whether those are influenced by others or not, online or offline, right? If you're following someone who is a great marketer, and I have nothing against this, right? Marketers are hopefully doing a good thing by providing a product that helps someone's life. But if you're following them and you're starting to believe like, oh, okay, this one person business model that this guy Dan Coe promotes, it sounds so amazing because of how it's impacted his life. But are you going to start one just because I said so? Or does it actually resonate with the goals you want to achieve in your life, the intrinsic goals that you have created for yourself? And does it sound like a worthy path to get there? You can't be yourself if you're never alone with yourself. And as with everything, this requires balance. Balance does not mean split down the middle. Balance means a conscious effort to prevent either extreme from taking over. So if your goal is to make a dent on this world, if you're following me and you want to become a value creator, you want to start a one-person business, you want to be more original, you want to be more creative, you want to create a life that you love, that you want to create, then you're going to have to expose yourself to other people, right? That's just inevitable for anyone, really. You're going to have to expose yourself to people at some time because all of this business stuff is transactional. You need another person to give you money in exchange for value, right? That's how it works. But balance. You have to create time for being alone. You have to create time for sitting and contemplating and meditating over the ideas that you are trying to put out to impact the world. Because the problem with over socialization is that your thoughts, writing, ideas, and work are not original, unique, or novel. And because of that, you're going to get the same results as everyone else. And if you know everyone else, they're in the rat race, whether it's a corporate rat race or a social media one-person business rat race. You have to prioritize your mind. You have to prioritize self-development. You have to prioritize cognitive and creative development. And this is the thing that will separate you from everyone else. Don't worry about your niche. Don't worry about how well your topic's performing. Prioritize developing your mind. So what's the first step to being yourself? It is prioritizing yourself. It's being selfish. Selflessness requires selfish values, self-control, self-reliance, self-reflection, self-education, self-awareness, self-employment, self-management, self-experimentation. I could go on and on and on. I'm reading a tweet from my phone, but you can go on and on and on. It's impossible to be selfless when you are dependent on others for your survival. Because I've experienced this a lot. There are a lot of people in this world that just want to be selfless out of the gate. They want to give value when they haven't created value by prioritizing themselves. And of course, this requires a balance right now. I'm not saying, oh, just be selfish all the time, be a dickhead and do all this selfish shit. It's like, no. Use your brain. You can be selfless and you can give some money to a homeless person, but even then, question yourself. Be a bit skeptical. Are you giving that homeless person money because you actually care about that homeless person, or are you doing it to receive a good feeling? Now, am I saying that you shouldn't give a homeless person money because of that? No, I'm just saying to know your own motives and become conscious of your own thought processes and not lie to yourself. So again, we're touching on the value of self-reliance. You have to take it on yourself to figure it out, to figure everything out in this life. Because it's not like you know automatically what you want for the future. You figure it out. You figure it out by trying stuff. You figure it out by doing. You figure it out by not getting distracted and making reverse progress. So don't outsource your health to convenience. Don't outsource your thinking to social media. Don't outsource your career to the school system. Treat your life as a science project. The essence of science, the foundation, the fundamental one law of science is trial and error. You have to try everything and eliminate what doesn't work. You have to try different exercises in the gym. You have to try different foods. You have to try different diets. You have to see what works, refine back a bit, cut, and then keep going. And you eventually compound this knowledge or experience to the point of where you make it seem effortless to other people. So be your own personal trainer, be your own therapist, be your own business mentor. And so now, in terms of being alone, because we know that being alone is necessary for being yourself, what do you do when you're alone? So the first thing, my favorite, is you can go on a contemplative walk. And I used to hate walks. I used to hate going on a walk. My ex-girlfriend at the time would always want to go on a walk at night. Then I'd be that pissy motherfucker just sitting inside. No, I don't want to go on a walk. I'm going to sit here and ruin everything. No, I'm just kidding. But the point is like, I would go on a walk and I'd hate every second of it. It's because I didn't have whys stacked behind it. I didn't like going on a walk because I didn't understand why it benefited my life. I wasn't selfish with why I was going on walks. And so now that I incorporated it, one time, like a few years ago, I went into a cut because I like to lift and bulk and cut, and sometimes happens. And so I was cutting down and it's like, I don't want to do cardio. I'm just going to start going on a walk, start walking 10K steps a day. And then I started listening to audiobooks, and then I started noting down ideas, and I started writing my articles, and I started researching the benefits and trying to condition myself to like going on a walk. And now If I walk less than 15K steps a day, I won't go to bed. If I'm at like 10K steps at night before I go to bed, I'll get up and I'll go walk. And so on this walk, what you can do is one, listen to an audiobook and like munch on the ideas and mull over them and pause it and think. But you can also contemplate your vision for the future. You can contemplate who you want to become. You can contemplate who you are or who you think you are. And so the thing with this is like contemplation isn't easy. Being with yourself isn't easy. But struggle is where you're going to receive the lesson. The struggle is where your mind is primed with tension to be resolved by giving you a lesson of that experience, to have an answer for what you're contemplating, right? And so it may take a week to figure out who you are. It may take a year to figure out what you want for your future. But you're going to receive these mini lessons along the way as you're going on the walks, and ideas are going to pop into your head, and that will attribute to the progress that you are trying to make towards the intrinsic goals that you have set for yourself on the journey to a better life. So the second one to do when you're alone is weekly self-reflection. You can do this in a journal, but self-reflection is pretty much just questioning what went wrong, what went right, what did I learn, what am I going to do better, did I do anything according to my goals. You can look up like self-reflection questions to answer in your journal or just to contemplate on a walk. Because the thing is that nobody knows what they want in the future. It's literally impossible. You can't know what hasn't happened yet. It's just a potential. It's just a possibility of what's going to happen. If you have a clear vision for your future, it's just that. It's just imagination. It's just a vision for your future that you're trying to work towards. And you will never know what you want in the future until you achieve it, until you achieve what you think you want or whatever you had in your imagination or whatever goal it was, just to self-reflect and see, okay, did I actually want that? Did I actually make progress? Do I know what I want now, or do I have what I want now, or do I need to set a new goal and pursue that? Because you're never going to know. That's the thing, is that this is an infinite game. It's never going to end. This is why you need to fall in love with the process, is because how can you fall in love with something that's just an ideal or like an imaginary vision, right? It's good. It's a very good thing. Do not think it's a bad thing. I'm just saying you're never going to know. You have to continuously set new goals and make continuous progress, because if you don't, then the other option in our modern world is to get distracted and regress. So number 3 out of things to do when you're alone, to be alone, is to write to clarify your thoughts. Here's a part of a thread from Jordan Peterson. No one ever tells students why they should write something. Well, why are they writing? Well, you need the grade. It's like, no, you need to learn to think, because thinking makes you act effectively in the world. If you can think and speak and write, you are absolutely deadly. Nothing can get in your way. So I've experienced this firsthand, and you do not experience it until you start writing. Again, this is why I'm a proponent of writing online and building a one-person business doing so. And even the Feynman technique aligns with this, where the Feynman technique is pretty much teach what you learn, and that is the most effective way to learn. That's how you're going to retain 90% of the knowledge that goes into your brain, unlike taking notes, which is like you retain 5% of it or something like that. So you need to write and learn to articulate your thoughts like this, so you can actually make better decisions in the world and open up your mind and be able to have new ideas register in your awareness, because you can make sense of them. And again, with the transactional nature of business, you have to be able to articulate the value of yourself and your product and your content to the person on the receiving end. That's how you grow a following. None of the tactics and strategies called marketing or sales or any of that stuff that is just a layer over human nature and psychology is going to change that for you. You have to learn to write and articulate your thoughts. Templates and all of this other shit is not going to help you. It'll get you a bit of results at the beginning, but if you do not back that with a foundation, if you are not building the house of your business on a solid foundation of human understanding, then you're not going to make it. The house is going to fall. If you don't have ideas, read. If you have ideas but can't articulate them, write. If you have ideas and have the clarity to execute, build. So, number 4 of things to do for being alone is to question the story that your ego fabricates. right? Because that's what the ego does. It tries to make sense of the world through stories. And so the best way that I can explain this is, as you're scrolling social media or as you're scrolling Twitter, watch your mind, right? You're going to read a 280 character tweet, which is about this big. And if you don't understand it, you're going to start filling in the blanks. You're going to start filling in, okay, it makes sense if I apply it to this aspect of my life, or it doesn't make sense if I apply it to this aspect. And so since it doesn't make sense in that aspect, this makes me angry, and I feel like leaving an angry comment, right? So it's things like that, rather than just seeing things for what they are, reading the tweet for what it is, seeing the post for what it is, seeing someone else for what they are, seeing what they say as what they are, and not filling in a past or future of what you think they were or what you think they're going to be. Interact in the present moment. But of course, this is best done alone. So when you're scrolling social media or you're reading a book, watch your mind. Observe it. Observe how it starts to fill in pieces and manipulate the picture that you are seeing to fit your worldview. So that is it for this video. I truly appreciate you watching. More coming at you. The next video is going to be about the Matrix. It's going to be very deep. I hope you get a lot out of it. And while you're here, check out Modern Mastery, the private community and business library with a bunch of strategies. And it has a Discord channel, so you get personalized help. That is $5 to join. Link in the description. The 2-Hour Writer, if you want to learn to write and articulate your thoughts and build leverage online and learn a skill that isn't going to get replaced in the future or automated out. And lastly, there's free stuff, more free stuff in the description. And be sure to like, subscribe, and have an incredible rest of your day.